The principal's hand was damp when she shook mine in the hallway outside the multipurpose room. Through the double doors, I could hear a piano accompaniment starting up, children's voices finding their pitch. She kept glancing at the printed program in her other hand, then back at my face, trying to reconcile something. "Mr. Garrison, I have to ask, are you certain about this?" I told her I was. She nodded slowly, the way people do when they've decided the liability isn't theirs anymore. She opened the door just wide enough for me to slip through, and I stepped into the back of the auditorium while second graders sang about autumn leaves. Parents sat in folding chairs with phones raised. I found a spot along the wall where the light didn't quite reach and waited. 2 rows from the front, I could see the back of my son's head. He sat beside a woman I'd never met, her hand resting on his shoulder. Between them, a boy about 9 leaned forward, watching the stage. That was Owen. I knew his name from the enrollment forms I'd requested through careful channels. The girl singing in the front row with the yellow bow in her hair was Lily. She'd just turned 7. My son thought I was dead. He'd told his children their grandfather had died before they were born. I'd been standing in a copy shop 3 weeks earlier when I learned this. The machine hummed, printing tax documents, and my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, careful and formal, introduced herself as Karen Thielman, a guidance counselor at Riverside Elementary. She asked if I was Nathan Garrison's father. I said I was. She paused, and in that pause I felt something tilt. "I'm calling because Owen mentioned his grandfather in a session today. He was confused about a family tree assignment. I thought it might help to have some clarity." I waited. "Owen told me his grandfather on his father's side passed away, but when I reviewed our records, your name is listed as an emergency contact from 4 years ago when Nathan first enrolled Lily." The copier finished. I picked up the warm stack of paper and set it on the counter. "I'm not dead," I told her. "I gathered that," she said. "I wanted to reach out before I spoke with Nathan. This seems like something that needs careful handling." I thanked her. She gave me her direct line. After we hung up, I stood in the copy shop for a long time, staring at a wall of birthday cards, trying to locate the exact moment when my son had decided to erase me. I'm 61. I worked 33 years as a systems engineer for a firm that designed water treatment infrastructure. My wife, Carolyn, died when Nathan was 17. Breast cancer, diagnosed late, resistant to everything they tried. I raised Nathan alone through his last year of high school and into college. We didn't fight the way some fathers and sons do. We were careful with each other, polite. After Carolyn died, the house became a place where we moved in separate orbits, crossing paths at meals, exchanging information about schedules and bills. He studied business. I paid his tuition. When he graduated, he moved 2 hours north for a job in sales. We spoke every few months. Then, every few months became twice a year, became once a year, became silence. I didn't know he'd married until I saw the announcement in an alumni newsletter someone forwarded me. I sent a card to the address listed. It came back unopened, marked "Return to Sender" in handwriting I recognized. That was 8 years ago. I tried twice more after that. Once when I found a phone number through a mutual acquaintance. A woman answered, said Nathan wasn't available, took my name, and never called back. Once when I drove to the address I'd found through a public records search. The house was small, pale blue, with a chain-link fence around the yard. I sat in my car for 20 minutes. The front door stayed closed. I left. Some men would have pushed harder. I know that. I made a different calculation. If Nathan wanted silence, I would give him silence. I told myself it was respect. Maybe it was cowardice. Maybe both. But when Karen Thielman told me my son had buried me in a lie, something old and structural inside me cracked clean through. I spent the next 2 weeks learning everything I could. The internet has made that easier than it should be. I found Nathan's LinkedIn profile, his wife's Facebook page set to public, photos of birthday parties and soccer games. I learned their names, Owen and Lily. I learned what school they attended, what teacher Owen had when the next school event was scheduled, the Fall Arts Showcase, Friday evening at 6:30, open to families. I called Karen Thielman back. I told her what I wanted to do. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Mr. Garrison, I can't stop you, but I need you to understand that this will be disruptive. These are young children. I know what they are, I said. They're my grandchildren. They think you're dead. That's why I'm going. She exhaled. If you're going to do this, I'd like to be there, in case anyone needs support. I agreed. She told me to arrive early, check in at the front office, and wait until she came to get me. I thanked her. I bought a navy sweater and a pair of khakis that fit better than the clothes I usually wore. I got a haircut. I drove 2 hours north on a Friday afternoon with my hands steady on the wheel and my chest tight as a drum. Now I stood in the back of the multipurpose room and watched my son's children perform. Lily sang with her whole body, swaying side to side, her mouth wide on every vowel. Owen sat with his class in the third row, waiting his turn. The parents clapped after each song. Nathan clapped with them, his shoulders relaxed, his head tilted toward his wife when she whispered something that made him smile. He looked content. He looked like a man who had made peace with his choices. The second grade choir finished. A teacher ushered them off stage. The third graders stood and filed up, Owen among them. They arranged themselves in rows, tallest in back. Owen ended up in the middle, second row, his hands folded in front of him the way children do when they've been told to stand still. The piano started. They sang a song about rivers. Owen's voice was clear and serious. He didn't smile. He watched the music teacher's hands for his cues. Halfway through the song, his eyes drifted past the front rows, scanning the audience. He was looking for his parents, I realized, making sure they were watching. His gaze swept across the middle section, back toward the walls, and then landed on me. He didn't recognize me. How could he? But something in his face shifted. A small confusion, a question he didn't have words for yet. I didn't move. I held his gaze for 2 seconds, maybe 3, and then he looked away, back to the music teacher, back to the song. But his posture changed, straighter, more uncertain. When the third grade finished, the audience clapped. Nathan turned in his seat to say something to the man beside him, laughing. He hadn't looked back once. He had no idea I was there. Karen Thielman appeared at my elbow. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with wire-rimmed glasses and a lanyard around her neck. "The principal wants to speak with you before the reception," she said quietly. "Just a formality. Follow me." We stepped back into the hallway. She led me to a small office near the front entrance. The principal was waiting, the same woman who'd shaken my hand earlier. She gestured to a chair. I sat. Karen stood near the door. "Mr. Garrison, I've confirmed your identity and your relationship to Owen and Lily. I want to be very clear about the school's position. We cannot prevent you from attending a public event. However, if there is any disruption that affects the safety or well-being of students, we will ask you to leave immediately." "I'm not here to cause a disruption," I said. "Then what are you here for?" I looked at her. She had a wedding ring, a coffee stain on her sleeve, and the patient, tired expression of someone who'd spent years managing other people's crises. "I'm here to meet my grandchildren," I said. She studied me. "Does your son know you're coming?" "No." "That's what I thought." She glanced at Karen, then back at me. "The reception is in the cafeteria. Cookies and punch. It's informal. Families mingle. If you want to introduce yourself, that's when you should do it. But I'm asking you to consider whether this is the right setting. These children are young. They have no context for you. Whatever happened between you and your son, they're not responsible for it." "I know that," I said. "Do you?" She wasn't unkind, just precise. "Because from where I'm sitting, this looks like you're using them to get to him." I sat with that for a moment. "Maybe I am," I said, "but they deserve to know I'm alive, and he doesn't get to decide that for them." She nodded slowly. "All right, you can stay, but I'll be watching." Karen walked me back to the multipurpose room. The program was nearly over. A fifth-grade band played a slightly out-of-tune rendition of a pop song I vaguely recognized. Parents checked their watches. The energy in the room had shifted from attentive to restless. When the band finished, the principal took the microphone and thanked everyone for coming. She invited families to the cafeteria for refreshments. Chairs scraped, people stood. Nathan and his wife gathered their coats. Owen and Lily ran down from the stage, breathless and bright, and crashed into their parents' legs. Nathan crouched down, said something that made Lily giggle, and then stood, taking her hand. They moved toward the exit with the crowd. I followed at a distance. The cafeteria was just down the hall, a big open room with round tables and a serving line where volunteers had set out trays of cookies and a punch bowl filled with something bright red. Families clustered in groups talking, laughing. Children ran between the tables. I stood near the door, scanning the room until I found them. Nathan's wife was pouring punch into small paper cups. Lily stood beside her holding a cookie in each hand. Owen was at the next table, talking to another boy. Nathan stood slightly apart, scrolling through his phone. Karen touched my arm. "Are you ready?" I nodded. She walked with me across the cafeteria. We passed tables and groups of parents, and I felt the shift in the room's attention, the way people track movement that doesn't fit the pattern. Karen stopped at the table where Nathan's wife stood. Lily looked up first, her eyes wide and sticky with sugar. "Excuse me," Karen said. "Mrs. Garrison?" Nathan's wife turned. She was petite, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and a careful smile. "Yes?" "I'm Karen Thielman, the guidance counselor. I was hoping to speak with you and your husband for a moment." The smile held, but her eyes sharpened. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. It's just a quick conversation." Karen glanced at me, then back at her. "This is Nathan's father." The smile vanished. She stared at me. I watched the pieces assemble in her mind. Her hand tightened on the edge of the table. "What?" Nathan looked up from his phone. He saw his wife's face first, then followed her gaze to me. The color drained from his skin so fast I thought he might sit down. He didn't. He just stood there, staring, his mouth slightly open. "Hi, Nathan," I said. He didn't answer. His wife stepped closer to him, and I saw her hand find his arm. Lily stopped chewing her cookie. Owen had turned around and was watching us now, his face uncertain. "I think we should talk privately," Karen said. "There's a conference room just down the hall." Nathan's wife shook her head. "No, we're not going anywhere with him." "I'm not asking you to go anywhere," I said. "I'm just asking you to let me explain." "Explain what?" Nathan's voice came out thin and sharp. "You can't be here." "I'm here," I said, "and I'm not leaving until you tell them the truth." His wife's eyes darted to Lily, then Owen. "We need to go, right now." She reached for Lily's hand, but Lily pulled away, staring at me. "Who is he?" Nathan didn't answer. His wife crouched down, trying to redirect Lily toward the door, but Owen was walking toward us now, his face puzzled and intent. He stopped a few feet away. "Mom said Grandpa died," Owen said. "He was looking at me, not his parents. Before I was born." I looked at Nathan. He stood frozen, his hand still on his wife's arm. I could see the calculation in his eyes, the desperate search for a story that would hold the moment together. But there was no story. There was only the truth or another lie. "I didn't die," I said to Owen. "I'm your grandfather, your dad's father, and I've wanted to meet you for a very long time." Owen looked at his dad. "You said he was dead." Nathan's face crumpled, not with sadness, with something harder, anger or shame, maybe both. "You have no right to do this," he said to me. His voice was low and shaking. "You have no right to come here." "I have every right," I said. "They're my grandchildren." "You walked away." His voice rose, and people at the nearby tables turned to look. "You stopped calling. You stopped trying. I stopped because you made it clear you didn't want me in your life. So you just gave up. You gave up, and now you show up here and ambush us in front of our kids." I kept my voice even. "I gave you space. I thought that's what you wanted. But you didn't want space. You wanted me gone, erased, and I won't let you do that to them." His wife stepped between us. "We're leaving. Right now." She reached for both children this time, and Lily started to cry, confused and frightened by the sharpness in her mother's voice. Owen didn't move. He just kept staring at me, trying to make sense of the shape of my face, the tone of my voice, the fact that I was standing in front of him when he'd been told I was in the ground. Karen stepped forward. "Let's take a breath. Everyone, Mr. and Mrs. Garrison, I understand this is difficult, but I think Owen and Lily deserve some clarity. That's why I reached out to Mr. Garrison in the first place." Nathan turned on her. "You called him?" Owen was confused about the family tree assignment. He mentioned his grandfather was dead. I checked our records and realized that wasn't true. I felt it was important for him to know. "That wasn't your decision to make," Nathan's wife said. "No," Karen said gently. "But it wasn't yours either, not entirely. These are his grandchildren. He has a right to know them. Nathan laughed, bitter and sharp. A right? He has no rights. He wasn't there. He didn't call. He didn't show up. I tried, I said. I sent letters. I called. I came to your house. You shut me out. Because you were never really there. Nathan's voice cracked. Even when Mom was dying, you were already gone. You went through the motions, but you were somewhere else. And after she died, you just disappeared into your work and your routines, and I was alone. Completely alone. So yeah, I moved on. I built a life without you. And I didn't want my kids growing up with someone who didn't know how to be present. The cafeteria had gone quiet. Parents stood with cups in their hands, watching. Children had stopped running. Lily was sobbing now, her face buried in her mother's hip. Owen stood very still, his eyes moving between his father and me. I took a breath. You're right, I said. I wasn't there the way you needed me to be. After your mother died, I didn't know how to be a father to you anymore. I didn't know how to do anything except keep working and keep breathing. And I'm sorry. I should have tried harder. I should have asked you what you needed instead of assuming you wanted distance. Nathan stared at me. His jaw worked, but no sound came out. But you're a father now, I continued. You know what it's like to love your children and make mistakes, and I hope they'll forgive you. And you know what it's like to be terrified of losing them. That's why I'm here, not to punish you, not to take anything from you, just to let them know I exist, so they don't grow up believing I'm dead the way you wanted them to. Nathan's wife pulled Lily closer. We need to go, she said again, but her voice had lost its sharpness. She sounded tired. Owen hadn't moved. He was still looking at me, and in his face I saw the question forming, the one that would define everything that came next. Are you really my grandpa? He asked. I nodded. I am. Why did Dad say you were dead? I glanced at Nathan. He wouldn't look at me. That's something you'll have to ask him, I said. But I can tell you this, I've been alive the whole time, and I've thought about you every day since I found out you existed. Owen's face did something complicated. Not a smile, not quite trust, but something opening. Do you want to meet us? He asked. More than anything, I said. Nathan finally spoke. His voice was quiet, scraped raw. This isn't fair. No, I agreed. It's not, but it's what's happening. His wife looked at him, then at me, then at Owen and Lily. I could see her doing the math, weighing the cost of walking away against the cost of staying. Finally, she sighed. We can't do this here, she said. If you want to talk, we can meet somewhere. Just the adults, not here, not in front of them. I nodded. That's fair. Karen stepped in. I can give you my office if you need a private space. Nathan shook his head. No, not tonight. I need time. How much time? I asked. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than anger in his face. Exhaustion. Maybe even a sliver of grief. I don't know. A week, maybe more. I've waited 8 years, I said. I can wait a week. We stood there in the middle of the cafeteria, the 5 of us, and Karen, while the rest of the room slowly resumed its noise. Parents started talking again. Children went back to running. A teacher turned on music from a portable speaker, something cheerful and incongruous. Nathan's wife bent down and whispered something to Lily, who nodded and wiped her face. Owen kept watching me. I wanted to say something more to him, something that would stick, but I didn't know what that could be. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a business card. It was old from my engineering firm, but my cell phone number was still written on the back. I held it out to Nathan. He didn't take it. His wife did, glancing at the number before slipping it into her purse. Thank you, I said. She didn't answer. She took Lily's hand and nodded to Owen, who reluctantly followed. Nathan lingered for a moment, his eyes on the floor, his shoulders tight. Then he turned and walked after them. I watched them leave, crossing the cafeteria and disappearing into the hallway. The door swung shut behind them. Karen stood beside me, her arms crossed. That was hard, she said. Yes, I agreed. Do you think he'll call? I don't know. What will you do if he doesn't? I looked at her. I'll call him. She smiled, just a little. Good. I left the school and drove home in the dark. The road was empty. The radio played something I didn't listen to. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my chest still felt tight, like something inside me hadn't unlocked yet. When I got home, I sat in the car in the driveway for a long time, staring at the house Carolyn and I had bought 30 years ago. The porch light was on a timer, the lawn needed mowing. Everything looked the same as it had that morning, but I felt different. Lighter, maybe, or just emptier in a way that made more room. I went inside. I heated a can of soup and ate it standing at the counter. I washed the bowl and put it away. I turned off the lights and went to bed. Sleep didn't come easily, but I didn't expect it to. 3 days passed. Nathan didn't call. I worked in the yard. I repaired a leaking faucet in the bathroom. I cooked meals and ate them alone. On the 4th day, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mr. Garrison?" A woman's voice. Not Nathan's wife. Not Karen. "Yes. This is Principal Holloway, from Riverside Elementary. I wanted to follow up after Friday's event." I sat down. "All right." "Owen came to see me this morning. He asked if I could give him your phone number. I told him I couldn't do that without his parents' permission, but I wanted to let you know he's thinking about you." Something in my chest loosened. "Thank you for telling me. He also asked if you were really his grandfather." I told him that was true. I hoped that was all right. It was. "Good." She paused. "Mr. Garrison, I don't know what's going to happen with your family, but I think Owen wants to know you. That matters." "It does," I said. "Take care." She hung up. I set the phone down and stared at it for a while. Then I stood and went to the closet in the spare bedroom, the one filled with boxes I hadn't opened in years. I found the one labeled Nathan, Childhood, and pulled it down. Inside were school photos, report cards, drawings he'd made in elementary school, a Father's Day card he'd given me when he was 8, decorated with glued-on macaroni. I sat on the floor and read through everything, remembering the shape of his handwriting, the way he used to sign his name with a backwards N until 3rd grade. At the bottom of the box was a photo of Carolyn holding Nathan on her lap. He was maybe 2 years old, grinning at the camera with his arms around her neck. She looked tired and happy, her hair shorter than I remembered. I'd taken the photo in our backyard on a Sunday morning. I could still remember the light, the smell of cut grass, the way Nathan had laughed when Carolyn tickled him. I put the photo in my wallet. On the 6th day, Nathan called. His voice was flat when I answered. "We need to talk." "I'm listening," I said. "Not on the phone. Can you meet me somewhere?" "When?" "Tomorrow. There's a park near the school. Riverside Park. Do you know it?" "I'll find it. 2 o'clock. I'll be there." He hung up. I spent the rest of the day trying not to think too hard about what he might say. I knew better than to hope for reconciliation. The best I could expect was some kind of boundary, a set of rules that would let me see Owen and Lily under controlled conditions. The worst was another door closing. This one, final. The park was small and well kept, with a playground and a loop of paved trail around a duck pond. I arrived early and sat on a bench near the water. Ducks paddled in slow circles. A woman jogged past with a dog. The air was cool and smelled like autumn, that particular mix of dying leaves and wet earth. Nathan arrived exactly at 2, walking from the parking lot with his hands in his pockets. He sat on the other end of the bench, leaving space between us. For a while, neither of us spoke. We watched the ducks. "I didn't think you'd come," I said finally. "I almost didn't." He picked at a thread on his jeans. "My wife said I had to. She said Owen won't stop asking about you." "He's a good kid." "He is." Nathan's voice tightened. "And he doesn't understand why I lied. I told him you were dead because I thought it was easier than explaining why you weren't in our lives, but now he thinks I'm a liar. Which I am. So that's great." I waited. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. "I don't even know if I want to." "What do you want?" I asked. He looked at me then, and his eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. "I want my kids to have grandparents. I want them to grow up knowing they're loved by more than just us, but I don't know if I can let you be that person. I don't trust you." "I understand," I said. "Do you?" He laughed, bitter. "Because I don't think you do. You think this is about me holding a grudge, but it's not. It's about the fact that when Mom died, you disappeared. You were there physically, but you weren't there. And I needed you. I needed my dad, and you couldn't do it." "You're right," I said. "I wasn't there. I didn't know how to be. I was drowning, and I didn't know how to ask for help or give it, and I failed you. I know that. He stared at the water. So what changed? Why now? Because I found out you told your kids I was dead. And I realized that if I didn't do something, I'd lose them too. I'd lose the chance to know them, and I couldn't live with that. So this is about you. No, I said. It's about them. They deserve to know I exist. They deserve to decide for themselves whether they want me in their lives. You don't get to make that choice for them. Nathan's jaw tightened. I'm their father. I absolutely get to make that choice. Not this one, I said. Not anymore. You made your choice when you lied. Now they get to make theirs. He stood up, his hands clenched. You don't get to come back after 8 years and tell me how to raise my kids. I'm not telling you how to raise them, I said. I'm asking you to let me know them. He turned away, facing the pond. His shoulders rose and fell with his breathing. I waited, watching the ducks, letting the silence stretch. Finally, he sat back down. If I let you see them, it's on my terms, he said. You don't just show up. You don't call them without asking me first. You don't make promises you can't keep. Agreed, I said. And if you hurt them, if you disappear again, I will make sure you never see them again. I don't care what the law says. I'll move. I'll change their names. I'll do whatever it takes. I believed him. I won't disappear, I said. He looked at me, searching my face for something. I don't know if he found it. We'll start slow. Supervised visits, maybe once a month, at our house so they feel safe. You stay for an hour, maybe 2. We see how it goes. Thank you, I said. He nodded. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for them. I know. We sat there a while longer. The ducks moved to the far side of the pond. The woman with the dog jogged past again, heading the other direction. Nathan checked his watch. I need to pick up Lily from dance class, he said. All right. He stood. I'll call you. In a few days. We'll set up a time. I'll be waiting. He walked back to the parking lot without looking at me again. I stayed on the bench until his car disappeared down the street. Then I walked the loop around the pond twice, letting the cool air clear my head before driving home. Nathan called 4 days later. We agreed on the following Saturday, 3 o'clock, at his house. I asked if I should bring anything. He said no, just show up. I spent the week preparing. I bought a book for Owen about engineering, something age-appropriate with diagrams and experiments. I bought a puzzle for Lily, a wooden one with animals. I debated bringing photos of Nathan as a child, decided against it, then changed my mind and packed them anyway. On Saturday morning, I showered and dressed carefully, the same navy sweater and khakis I'd worn to the school. I left early to avoid being late and ended up parked a block away from their house, waiting until exactly 3 o'clock to pull into the driveway. The house looked the same as it had the time I'd sat outside in my car 2 years ago. Pale blue, chain-link fence, small front yard. The grass was neatly cut. A plastic slide sat beside the garage. I walked to the front door and knocked. Nathan's wife answered. She didn't smile, but she stepped aside to let me in. They're in the living room, she said. I followed her through a narrow hallway into a small, tidy living room with a couch, a television, and toys stacked in bins along the wall. Owen sat on the floor with a book. Lily was on the couch, coloring. Nathan stood near the window, arms crossed. When I entered, Owen looked up. His face was serious, guarded. Hi, I said. Hi, Owen said. Lily glanced at me, then back at her coloring book. Nathan's wife sat on the arm of the couch, close to Lily. Nathan didn't move. I set the bag with the gifts on the floor. I brought you both something, just small things. I hope that's all right. Nathan nodded slightly. I pulled out the book and handed it to Owen. He took it carefully, turning it over to read the back cover. It's about how bridges and buildings are made, I said. I thought you might like it. Thank you, Owen said. He opened the cover and started flipping through the pages. I handed the puzzle to Lily. She set down her crayon and took it, examining the picture on the box. It's a farm, she said. It is, I said, with cows and horses and chickens. I thought you might like to put it together. She nodded, hugging the box to her chest. Thank you. I sat on the floor, a respectful distance from Owen, and glanced at Nathan. He was watching me, his expression unreadable. His wife leaned over and whispered something to Lily, who who nodded and went back to coloring. "Owen," I said, "your dad told me you like science." Owen looked up. "I do. What's your favorite subject?" "Space," he said, "and dinosaurs." "Those are good ones. I like engineering. That's kind of like science. It's about figuring out how things work and building things that solve problems." "Did you build things?" "I did. I designed systems that clean water so people can drink it safely." Owen considered this. "That's important." "It is," I agreed. "What do you want to build when you grow up?" He thought about it. "Maybe rockets or robots. Those are both excellent choices." We talked for a while about rockets and robots and the differences between Mars and Earth. Lily eventually got bored with coloring and asked if I would help her with the puzzle. I said yes, and we dumped the pieces on the coffee table and started sorting them by color. Nathan's wife brought out cookies and milk. Nathan stayed by the window, watching, but the tension in his shoulders gradually eased. By the time I left, 2 hours had passed. Owen showed me 3 more books he wanted to read, and Lily had finished the border of the puzzle. Nathan walked me to the door. "Thank you for letting me come," I said. He nodded. "They liked you." "I liked them. We'll do this again in a few weeks." "I'd like that." He opened the door, then hesitated. "You were different today. Present." "I'm trying," I said. He didn't say anything else. I walked to my car and drove home with the weight in my chest lighter than it had been in years. Over the next 6 months, I visited once a month, sometimes twice if Nathan allowed it. We fell into a rhythm. I brought books, helped with homework, played board games. Owen started calling me Grandpa. Lily took longer, but eventually she did too. Nathan and I didn't talk much beyond logistics, but the silence between us was less sharp. His wife, whose name was Rachel, started asking me questions about Nathan's childhood, about Carolyn. I answered carefully, aware that I was being tested, that every word mattered. In April, Nathan called and asked if I wanted to come to Owen's birthday party. Not just visit, but stay for the whole thing. Cake, games, other families. I said yes. The party was loud and chaotic and full of children I didn't know, but Owen ran up to me when I arrived and grabbed my hand and pulled me to the backyard to show me the trampoline. I stayed for 4 hours. When I left, Nathan walked me to the car. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for inviting me." He looked at me for a long moment. "I'm still angry," he said. "I don't know if that will ever go away completely." "I understand," I said, "but I'm trying. For them. And maybe for us, too." "That's all I can ask for," I said. He nodded and went back inside. I drove home through the dusk, thinking about Carolyn, about all the things she would have said if she'd been there to see this. I thought she would have been proud, not of me exactly, but of Nathan, of the father he'd become despite everything. A year after I walked into that school assembly, Nathan invited me to Thanksgiving dinner. It was the first holiday we'd spent together since Carolyn's funeral. Rachel cooked a turkey. Owen and Lily made place cards. I brought wine and a pie. We sat around their small dining table, and Nathan said grace, thanking God for family and second chances. Lily fell asleep on the couch afterward, and Owen curled up next to me, showing me photos on his tablet of a science project he was working on. Nathan and Rachel cleaned up in the kitchen, and I could hear them talking softly, laughing about something I couldn't make out. When it was time to leave, Nathan walked me to the door again. We stood on the porch in the cold, our breath fogging in the air. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said. "So am I." "I've been thinking about Mom," he said, "about what she would say if she saw us now." I waited. "I think she'd be relieved," he said. "She always hated the distance between us. Even before she died, she knew something wasn't right. She tried to talk to me about it once, but I brushed her off. I wish I hadn't." "She loved you very much," I said. "I know." His voice was quiet. "I loved her too, and I miss her. But I think I blamed you for her being gone. Like, if you'd been different, if you'd been more present, maybe she wouldn't have died. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's how I felt." "It makes sense," I said. "Grief doesn't follow logic." He nodded. "I'm sorry I told the kids you were dead. That was wrong. I was angry, and I wanted to hurt you, and I didn't think about what it would do to them, or to you." I forgive you, I said. He looked at me, surprised. Just like that? Just like that. He smiled, just a little. You've changed. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just better at showing up. He laughed, soft and tired. Yeah, maybe. We stood there a moment longer, and then he held out his hand. I shook it. His grip was firm. Drive safe, he said. I will. I drove home with the windows cracked, letting the cold air blow through the car. The roads were empty. The stars were bright. When I got home, I didn't turn on the lights right away. I just sat in the dark living room, feeling the stillness, the quiet. It wasn't lonely anymore. It was just space, room to breathe. I thought about Owen's face when he'd seen me at the school assembly, the confusion and curiosity, the moment when he'd asked if I was really his grandpa. I thought about Lily falling asleep on the couch, her small hand curled against my arm. I thought about Nathan's handshake, the weight and warmth of it. I thought about all the years I'd lost and all the years still ahead, and I decided the balance was fair. I'd failed once. I wouldn't fail again. I took out my phone and set a reminder for next week to call Nathan and ask if I could take Owen and Lily to the museum. Then I went to bed, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I slept through the night without waking. The truth doesn't fix everything, but it's a place to start.